are sitting in your very fancy office in Sophia Antipolis in an afternoon, rainy and sunny, fantastic weather. You have been re-elected in last spring for the next 5 years. So our audience would like to know from you, what are the main topics within your vision and strategy for the next 5 years?
Well, to start with, I think it's been a pleasure being re-elected, because this shows that in ETSI we've been doing things the right way. I think what's to come to us is quite challenging. The first idea that is in our mind is, of course, keeping the center of gravity of ICT, and this I think we are achieving, but we need to keep on being there. So at the core, at the center of digital. Then to achieve that, we need to keep on empowering our people. So it's a lot of efforts that we will put in empowering our people, in getting the right tools that enable new processes, that enable new ways of doing standards. So that's, let's say, a kind of a second big topic. The third one is interesting because we have a membership that's very varied, of industry, of operators, of academia, of governments, and we need to put a little bit more emphasis or focus on this latter, because we've sensed that there's a little bit of more disconnect, so we will put more emphasis on our governments, and particularly on the European Commission, because we have, as you know, a very close relationship with them, and we need to nurture this relationship.
Yeah, let's stay with that relationship to all these members. So SIGOS belongs to mid-sized enterprise companies, and they are also smaller companies as a member of ETSI. What's the role of all these companies for you?
In fact, it's a very important role, because despite the fact that many say, oh, ETSI is the place of the big guys, not at all. In ETSI is very interesting seeing how more than 20% of membership is SMEs, so small and medium enterprises. And what's more interesting is that when it comes to important and relevant positions in the different working groups and technical committees, 40% of those positions are being held by people coming from small and medium enterprises, which means a lot of brains come from these enterprises, new ideas, initiatives. And it's excellent because we help them and they help us. They help us being with us, growing the community, growing the interest in our subjects. And we help them, giving them more visibility, connections to the rest of the companies, networking possibilities. So it's a very nice symbiosis, if I may say. So SMEs are very much at the core of what we do.
Oh, great. You have mentioned also the importance of digitization. So while everyone talks about digital transformation in not only in telecommunications, also in an enterprise, especially in the enterprise world, what could be the role of ETSI within the next years within that scope of digital transformation?
Well, digitalization to us, it's how the different sectors are going to take on board ICT, information and communication technologies. If ETSI wants to be at the heart of these information and communication technologies, then we will see how we take more and more preeminent role in bridging and making possible this digitalization. I think it's very important that we are able to bring all these different sectors together and together with the ICT sector, and that we learn their ways and we learn what their requirements, their real requirements are, and bring them inside ETSI, and that we can work all together. So through this networking, I think it's how ETSI can help to this digitalization.
Are you involving in the work of ETSI also the enterprise companies besides the telecommunications too?
We are, and we could see that many different sectors are already being part of the ETSI community. We can see the automotive sector, of course, represented by many companies coming from the automotion, but we can see agriculture, we can see e-health, so we can see manufacturing. So there are many different sectors that are already being part of the community. The point to us is now how we are a little bit more relevant to those sectors, and how are we a little bit more known and trusted, and that they are joining a little bit with let's say, more footprint, more companies around, and with more clear objectives.
I see. You know, besides the digitization, there are a lot of expectations regarding the productivity in the life. And one of the keywords is automatization. So automatization in the enterprise world, automatization in the networks. Let's be focused on networks, so self-optimized networks. So what could be the role of ETSI to push the automatization within the networks, within the upcoming new generations like 5G?
In fact, it's an important question, because we believe that all these new, very complex networks coming will be absolutely unmanageable if you don't have some kind of, well, a big part of automatization on the management and maintenance of all these networks. So all these self-healing, self-operating, self-everything networks. If we have this 5G coming with all these features and all these new ways of doing and all these huge possibilities, if we are not able to manage those, we will lose all the potentiality and all the power of the networks. So it will be core to enabling the future 5G services and the future 5G networks. In ETSI, we already have groups that are looking at that, at automation at different levels and different components, using, again, we've heard about it, using machine learning and artificial intelligence technologies or capabilities. And this is just the start, because we believe this will grow and impact in the work that 3GPP is doing, and impact in everything we will be doing on other kind of technologies.
Obviously, we are in a starting phase of automatization, but with a real focus of ETSI in a cooperation with, let's say, telecommunications sector as well as an enterprise. This is nicer to hear, because there are big expectations. If you go through several exhibitions in telecommunications, you see what we detect and what we monitor is many companies, many vendors, they claim the wording of service assurance, and then with the messages they have some solutions, they look for service assurance. And since SIGOS is in that business for 30 years already, so we are a little bit surprised about this big attention on service assurance. So is there a big market with service assurance, or are the people so worried about service quality within the complexity of new generations of networks?
In fact, service assurance is going to become the condition sine qua non. That's to say, today we've experienced networks that roughly have been designed for the mass market. We wanted them to really work, which they did. And if at some point in time you didn't have the kind of service you expected, it was not critical. Now, when we start doing the jump into 5G, but even more, even 4G, when we go to emergency services and giving protection to the world, you cannot allow that service simply fails. So when it comes to 5G, it's not just servicing the mass market, but it's servicing many different sectors. It's servicing businesses. So how long do we expect networks or the service not being able to be up and running in the proper way on a day-to-day basis? Well, cannot happen. So that's why service assurance will be an important component in the way in which we deploy services in all these new networks. Of course, if you go to emergency and critical communications, that's even more of a must, right? But not only that, even to give service to many different sectors and protect and support their businesses, if we want them to trust these technologies, you need to definitely assure the service.
Yeah, obviously for increasing and achieving high quality of services, you need standards for interconnections between networks, between several players in the networks. But on the other side, the over-the-top players and also the enterprise market, they have the feeling they are blocked by standardization. How you get this balance between standardization and giving more flexibility?
I like that because all these players that complain about standardization, because they are over the top of a standardized solution, which is good to start with. So in fact, you need to standardize to a certain level so that you ensure that the basics are solid, and then you can build and innovate and create on top of that. If you would like to create a service over the top, and the top being or the bottom of that being nothing, probably you will have nothing, right, over the top. So in fact, what these new technologies will enable at the end of the day is that there will be much more flexibility to build on top of the services being provided, for which you need to have very solid standardized interfaces and very solid and standardized plug-ins so that people can run and put over-the-top services with certain also levels of quality that probably today are not there to serve the customer.
So is 5G a dream of all of us, where we expect a big success worldwide with a nice contribution to GDP, growing the GDP, growing the economies, and etc., and growing the values for the human society? Is that a dream, or is that becoming a reality?
I think as every technology and as every new generation, it's always been a dream, and it always starts with a dream. And it's now becoming a reality. We start seeing deployments, and we will see in 5G, I think, as we have seen with all previous generations, we will see how we evolve as time goes by. Again, the foundations, which are the working standards, are set, and now it's about all our clever members to keep on deploying and developing all these technologies and putting those to the marketplace. What we have also experienced throughout the years is how each time you come with a new generation, with new features, with new capabilities, market has taken that, because market knows what they want when they see it. And we will see, therefore, how these new technologies, so all-encompassing, will be really uptaken in the marketplace and being serving. I think that's the most important thing, not just the mass market, but serving many other sectors that are already longing for these capabilities in the technology.
So thanks so much for this interview.
Thank you very much.